I'm not pushing the right buttons apparently.
It's recording. It's recording.
It
Oh,
says it's recording on the top.
Yep, you are doing it.
I'm having trouble pushing buttons today. Welcome, everybody, to the Let Them Theory. We're here and we're going. Oh, Mishkat just arrived. We're
Okay.
here and we're going to do.
Fish Cat.
Hello. Merry
We're,
Christmas, everyone, and
Merry
Happy New
Christmas.
Year.
we're recording, so you're in. Good job.
Thank you.
And Cynthia, tell us the chapters we're talking about today.
Well, it's a section called Motivating Other People to Change, and it's chapters 14 and 15.
Okay, great. Thank you. I needed to have that review. So 14 is about, somebody tell me who's got their book open.
People only change when they feel like it.
Oh, okay, people will change, but boy, don't we know that one. Um,
We only change when we feel like it.
Yeah.
well, it has to be my idea.
Yeah, right.
And there are certain people that for sure it's not going to be their idea.
Mm-hmm.
I won't do it. My husband is helping me to get back into driving because I haven't driven for 5 years, and he takes me out. But I told him yesterday when we got home, I said, if you would have tried to teach me to drive before we got married, we would not have gotten married. He was far too directive, and I was too close to the line, and oh my God, So, yeah, I got more and more stubborn. I want to drive, but by God, I wish I didn't have to have him in the car.
Right.
So, anyone else who has had some experiences with trying to change people?
In my first marriage, my husband had an alcohol problem, and I kept trying to push for change, and they didn't change. Nothing changed. It may change for a few weeks or whatever, but he would go back to his. I'd have to go get him out of the bar at 2:00 at night and that kind of thing, and I wasn't able to change him. He had to come to that on his own. And actually, it talks in the story about you come to the point of what can you live with. If somebody is not being respectful and caring about your concerns or your thought process, that may not be the best place for you to be.
Yeah.
And Mel mentioned that, Sandy, lightly. She did not use the get a divorce, separate. She didn't say any of that. But she did say that if you are imitating or modeling the behavior you want, and if you're guiding a person, letting them know you love them and trust them.
Right.
But if you aren't living the life that makes you happy,
Right.
you need to move on. I think she just said you need to move on. And I thought she's saying it clearly. You do not want to stay in a marriage, a relationship where you're miserable.
Right.
Try and try and try, but you were not living a happy life.
No, there's no trust and respect in the end, and that's a precursor to having a good, healthy relationship. And so, yeah, it came to that. And he eventually did end up turning some of that stuff around in his life, but it was because he dealt with some really strong medical issues that he either needed to stop or he was trying to endanger his life. Mm-hmm. So that was the motivation for him, but it wasn't having a wife sitting there telling him you need to quit this behavior.
And all the more he was going to push back because it was his wife.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and it's so you got to maintain some boundaries, whether you're married or not, and because otherwise you just feel crushed, you know what I mean, and you get diminished because of other people's choices. So, Mishka, you were going to say something.
When I read that chapter, I thought of two things. There is merger. So the person who we want them to change, they feel like we are trying to get them to merge and become someone else.
Right.
And that's why they resist so much. They don't want to become somebody else. There is also the familiarity. So I'm familiar with how drinking impacts me. It makes me feel happy, let's say. It takes the edge off, whatever the case might be.
Mhm.
And similarly with, other addictive substance, there is that feeling of comfort that they want from whatever it is that they are taking.
Yeah.
Right.
And that becomes the escape, which makes it very difficult to
Oh, yeah.
kind of get them to back on track, so to speak.
Right.
I have seen this personally and I have seen this professionally, both successfully and unsuccessfully. Like you, Sandy, my husband or my ex-husband built a habit that he should not be available for his wife.
Right.
So
Right.
most of the time he was outside of the house. I think he was trying to prove a point to his family
Mhm.
that his wife is not so important.
Right. Right.
Um, and again, we didn't reach an agreement. We couldn't continue as a couple. So I filed for divorce. So that's a person who could not change. And I believe in this case, change has to do with the core values.
Right.
So if you are asking someone to change their core beliefs, they won't do it.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, for example, when I worked with service members and they were learning a language that they are not familiar with, and perhaps, it's the language of the enemy, quote unquote. So many of them, worked with me. They changed their study habits, and that led them to succeed.
Right.
It wasn't easy. There was a lot of work that was required on their behalf. The program was so demanding, and the progress was so incremental.
Mhm.
So when a student starts failing, their GPA immediately plummets. To get it up, to the acceptable standard, the student has to not only pass, but has to achieve good results like A's and B's
Mhm.
in 4 tests, testing 3 modalities. So that takes a lot of time and effort from the learner.
Right.
So many of them successfully completed it, others could not. So there's that reality as well.
Yeah.
But I believe change has to do with the core beliefs. And if we are asking the person to merge into another quote unquote personality and become somebody they don't recognize,
Mhm.
whether for better or worse, it doesn't matter. It's the familiarity
Sure.
that they associate with.
Often the patterns. You're right.
Yeah.
Cynthia, how about you? You got a example?
Well, so both Sandy and Mishkat are looking at a marriage that went not well. Didn't
Right. You were.
And I'm looking at it from the point of me, who I highlighted the sentence, if you're coming from a place of judgment
Mm.
and
Mhm.
not acceptance, and I'm looking at me because I have been judgmental.
Mhm.
And I think I came from a family that was judgmental.
Right.
I think that when I was trying to get my husband to change, stupid things like, would you wear a turtleneck to a party? And I mean, so that's nagging, and that's not loving, it's not accepting.
Mm.
And I learned a lot from this chapter about not trying to force him to do things that didn't make him happy. And he never wore dirty or wrinkled or old clothes. I just wanted him to look spiffier. And so that's me. And I needed someone in this book to just reflect on me, on being judgmental, and
That's good.
asking somebody else to change.
You have hit on something really key, and that is, I mean, I always say judgment shuts down learning.
Yeah.
Adults and kids. And it sometimes doesn't even have to be a spoken judgment. It can just be a, a raised eyebrow or, and I think we find that if we are judgmental, we're being harsh on ourselves too.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? So we're holding ourselves to a certain standard, and
Right.
this person should do it. But it's a really broad concept that judgment does shut down learning, and change is all about learning.
Right.
If you don't want to do it and you won't put in the time, then it's not going to happen, you know.
Yeah.
What about you, Sue?
Um, oh, yeah, I mean, my mom, as she got older, uh, she was pretty rigid. And I got to the point where I called it planting seeds, you know, and I would sprinkle seeds 2 or 3 days, you know, and then 2 or 3 days later, it would be her idea. And when it was her idea, she'd do it. But
Right.
when it was, you know, it didn't work when it was my idea. So, you know, it's a kind of a human principle, I
Yeah.
think, that, and you just need to let people be who they are. And if there are consequences, if you cover up for them, then you're enabling it.
Mm-hmm.
You're
True.
over functioning, and the consequences don't fall on them.
Right.
And so you know, why would I change? There's nothing, you know, nothing to change for. And so that over functioning, the thing, I know I found this in organizational life, working with groups. If somebody is you know, if the teacher doesn't show up for um, you know, playground duty, and you keep going in and rescuing her by doing it for her, there are no consequences. And so
Mm-hmm.
let them be who they are, and let the consequences fall on them.
Mm-hmm.
Then they can,
Yeah.
because the thing that causes under functioning there is us over functioners.
You know, so you reminded me of an incident that took place in one of the positions that I worked, you know, as a leader in that organization. Um, you know, I discovered as a chairperson that, you know, the teacher is not going during the first hour. And somehow the teaching teams developed that habit. So the first hour, nobody goes, you know, and at the time, you know, before my arrival, the conflict between management and faculty members were at all-time high, so to speak. What I did is that I brought them in to my office and we had a discussion. You know, within the culture, the Arabic culture specifically, sometimes male leaders, male figures were expected to take the hit, so to speak, for somebody. And one of the faculty members tried to do it. He said, I'll take full responsibility for it. That is my fault. I told him, I'm not here to see whose fault it is.
Assign
I'm
fault.
here to see, you know, and answer this question. Is it acceptable for us as teaching teams to leave student unattended, not to do our jobs? Within within that conversation, something shifted. So it's not about who's going to take the blame, who's going to take the hit, who is going to be thrown under the bus,
Mm-hmm.
but it's about commitment.
Mm-hmm.
And slowly, you know, we start thinking about it differently.
Yeah.
The other thing that also took part is me going to their rooms. So rather than having the leader, so to speak, sit down in their office and lock the door, I felt like if I would go to their offices and they sit in like a big lab, so to speak, with so many cubicles, then that would signal to them that I'm part of the team as well.
Right.
And then they started inviting me to teach, and you know, I started teaching with them, including the first hour.
Yeah.
And that led to change.
Mm-hmm.
But it's exactly as you said, Sue. Change has to come organically.
Mm-hmm.
Whether we plant the seed, we have a discussion, we make the person feel like it's their idea, so there's some ownership involved, or we have an open discussion about it, even though when, let's say, social norms are not so, inclined to
Mm-hmm.
achieve the, results we want.
Right. And something's coming to me that is related to this, but it isn't directly related, and that's the victim bully culture.
True.
And it sort of has to do with the over under functioning. But I like to say that victim and bully are the same energy. They're two sides to the same coin. The,
Mm,
the victim doesn't want to be wrong. Don't blame me. And the bully wants to be right.
exactly.
Really the same thing. And so if you can neutralize that and take away the victimhood and take the bullyhood will neutralize because the energy is dissolved. And I'm wondering if it's going to help us in the next chapter too. But yeah, very. This is system stuff. This is family system. This is organizational culture stuff, and we kind of have to go back to alignment. What's my role? What's the goal? And get clear on some things, and then you're going to do things differently, and then the culture will start changing. It's the let them, let me.
Mm-hmm.
That,
Nice analogy, Sue.
thank you. So next chapter is 16, and it is the more you rescue, the more they sink. So
Yeah.
this is that under functioning again and over functioning. Any other things you want to talk about in this? I mean, because this is so epidemic in families,
Yeah.
and this is why alcoholics sometimes, if it's a family thing, that they saw the pattern so often that it's ingrained in their brain how
Right.
they react, and they're not even really um, being clear about what they won't even have a conversation with you about what's up. You know what I mean? They just want to feel better. This is what makes them feel safe, and they just continue with the behavior. So you're not even able to have a conversation. So
Yeah, one of the things that I had underlined here, a human being will always feel like choosing what is pleasurable now
Mhm,
and
Mhm.
what feels painful.
mhm,
In the moment, the work it takes to change is painful and hard. We want
mhm,
to take the easy route out because it feels better to us
mhm.
than do
And
the
we're
hard work.
wired to do that. I mean, that helped me to
Yeah.
go, oh, I'm wired to want to have an extra cookie. I'm wired to want to drink wine.
Right.
I want to take the easy path, the pleasurable
What
path.
makes me feel good? What makes
Yeah,
you feel good at the moment?
it
Yeah.
helped me to read that and think, yeah, that it is hard to say no.
Mhm.
Right.
But once you start a pattern, it gets easier. But I mean, I think it's Tony Robbins who says, as humans, we go after pleasure and we avoid pain.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's just as humans, that's who we are.
Uh-huh.
Well, and I can relate. They were talking about how somebody will start and stop exercising programs. I can't tell you how many times, how many diets and exercise programs I've started and have done it maybe at the utmost for 6 weeks.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
doesn't last.
Yeah. And yeah, we can't even make ourselves do stuff, let alone thinking we can make other people do it. Yeah. Yeah. So, anything else from this chapter? Letting people learn from life. Again, the consequences.
Honestly, the idea of rescuing people. First of all, rescuing creates an agency. So you are the agent of change in this scenario. And then that get mixed with the provider. So you created that change. That
Mhm.
you broke it, you own it now. And now I'm expecting more and more and more from you.
Mhm.
I have experienced this in the context of nation building,
Yeah.
believe it or not. So the entire conversation between the Iraqi leadership and the American leadership was centered around this.
Mm.
So basically, you've changed the country, you've changed the regime. Now we are expecting you to complete the work, to do it all the way through, to fix everything.
Don't leave it half done.
That's from the Iraqi perspective.
That's
Of
a very
course,
good
it
point.
came with blame, it came with a lot of expectations. And then from the American side, it was like, isn't it this your country? Why aren't you standing up for it?
Yeah.
So that conversation that was going sideways, so to speak, stems from this idea.
Yeah.
The more you change, the more people will depend on you.
Right. You're creating that entitlement almost. I mean, we talk about
Exactly.
the younger generation that we've done everything for, and what's it done? It hasn't given them a good work ethic. They've just become, they feel entitled because you gave them
That
some.
is true.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, it's not the idea that, or the immediate answer should not be, well, then I won't intervene in anything. I won't try to change anything. Because honestly, that means sit and watch.
Mhm.
Right.
So you sit and watch as things unfold in front of you, people could get hurt. The other day, I had really some thoughtful conversation with one of my neighbors. She stopped by and she started talking to me about how she intervened between two of her friends. Both of them are close friends, and one of them was bullying the other. She told me, my neighbor said, I didn't feel comfortable, watching this without saying anything. It didn't sit right with me. There were some concerns in her mind, like she was questioning her decision or something like that. I encouraged her, and I truly believe that she did the right thing. Watching someone being bullied or taken advantage of course, I'm going to call the victim. The victim in this case lives with an alcoholic husband and neglected, and a daughter that neglected her. And nobody is standing up for her. And of course, you have this other friend who, kind of analyzes the situation and, well, I can exercise some control here. So why wouldn't I do that? And now, with the conversation, the victim is being empowered. So she didn't change the reality for her. She just intervened enough to let her know that this is not acceptable,
Right.
that an action is required, no matter how small it is. And that action helped her see the big picture. So I truly believe, like, if you see something, you have to say something, whether on a personal level, on professional level, even nationwide,
Mhm.
rather than, letting a dictatorship like the Hussein regime fester.
Mhm.
And then it became so complicated to the limit that only the superpower can come and take
Right.
care of this problem.
Yeah.
Something else should have happened. Someone should have said something
Yes.
versus, letting the situation fester and fester.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I really like the idea. I mean, because really, when you're asking someone to change, you're changing their culture.
Mhm.
True.
My micro culture as it is, myself, my daily habits. And those baby steps of intervention can just even be a conversation, or
Exactly.
even, when that happens, why don't you come to my house and have coffee? But it changes the culture. And as the culture water starts to change, you get braver, and it makes much more of an impact. But really thinking about change as being a culture change really helps me understand it more. And those baby steps are very imperative. And that's true as, if we're trying to do an exercise program or a diet, it's those baby steps that we do every day rather than a big, broad.
Exactly. Exactly.
One of the things that came to mind, Mishka, when you were talking about the person intervening, is what allows evil to grow? Good people doing nothing. There's points and times where you have to step up and you have to make a stand about things. And I think in your country where you were talking about it was probably very scary because people lost their lives when they were
True.
being honest and sharing and trying to make a change. So everybody kind of pulled back probably. And I think even now in our society in the US, we do some of that because of cancel culture. We're afraid we'll get canceled. So we just step back and we don't say anything, say what we need to say.
Honestly, Sandy, I even had some discussions around that topic, that particular topic. And, organizations such as Harvard Kennedy School of Government with people who were considered, experts in their field.
Right.
There were steps taken, unfortunately, all in the wrong direction.
Right.
So, just as an example, the UN sanctions who were placed so as people will stand up for the regime, it weakened them. It's like hitting someone, on the back of their head every day and then expecting them to stand up.
Right.
Just because, under the romantic illusion that the entire French Revolution happened because people were so hungry. So, what we are going to do now, we are going to make you so hungry so as you will stand up to one of the most repressive regimes in the 20th century.
Yeah.
That is like, for example, going to that victim that I talked about, the friend who's being abused, and slapping her on the face in attempt to wake her up, and then continuing to slap her in hopes that she will stand up to the bully. Nevertheless, having open discussions and providing people with tools. So here's what you can do, and then mentorship, which reminds me again with the service members that I worked with a lot. As I said, not all of them were a success story, but those who committed. So change requires commitment to taking incremental steps, so one step at a time.
Right.
For example, one of them, we used to work together during the 7th hour, which is from 3:30 to 4:30. It's challenging because you wake up as a service member, you wake up perhaps at 3:30 in the morning to go to your physical training from, around 4 a.m., something to that. Nevertheless, those who committed were able to pass with flying colors. So these incremental steps, 1 hour a day, 1 hour a day. Similarly, rather than one cookie a day, and I should be the first to tell myself that, because I have a sweet tooth, maybe an orange, an apple, something to that effect. So as you'll still have the cravings that you want without, indulging too much.
Right. Right.
Two things with the lady that was trying to intervene with the gal that was being bullied. Every time I don't step up and at least have a conversation, I'm almost condoning it, and I'm actually causing my courage to go down back under the ground. You know what I mean? I'm losing my own integrity by not at least acknowledging it. However, and Sandy, you'll remember this, I used to always tell people, if somebody is in trouble, ask them what support would look like rather than say, can I help you?
Exactly.
It's a different question because
Yeah.
then I'm asking you, what would it look like to you, rather than me coming in with an idea. And so it's a subtle difference. But Sandy, you experienced this, asking people what support looked like, and you get a totally different answer than, oh, let me help you, let me rescue you.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
know, it,
I love that, Sue. I
They,
love.
they could be more specific as to what it made them reflect also what it would take for them to be successful. When you ask it, like, what does support look like to you? They would oftentimes pause and kind of like, oh, I hadn't thought of it that
Right,
way.
right,
True.
right. Well, let's get into chapter 16.
okay.
This is the help, the tools that we've been referring to. The tools. I mean, these. What do you think of 16?
Yeah.
15 or 16? Are you talking about 16 or 15?
15.
15. I like the ABC loop. I thought that was really
That's what I want to
interesting.
talk about, the ABC loop, and then the 5 whys.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
Mhm.
and she did use the word, sometimes it sounds cheesy. And I think a little bit of, oh, I don't want somebody to think I'm being a psychologist with them. But I need to learn to zip up my mouth and not offer
Uh-huh.
recommendations
Sure.
and ask the deeper questions. And it could be so simple with just, well, tell me why you feel okay about that.
Right.
Well,
Right.
you know, the technique of the 5 whys is something we use organizationally.
It's
But if you want to be a coach, you know, you say so. Sometimes a better way to say, unless the person is accepting the why, tell me more about that.
right.
What, you know, do you have some reasoning around that? Just sort of probe it gently, and then you can ask the next why. Or sometimes they even get that light bulb goes on.
Right.
Why the why? And like, you know, you talked about core values, Mishkat. That gets to, you know, if you ask that question 5 times, you've gotten to a core value. You know, it takes you right there. Um, so it's very powerful. But you're right. You can't feel like you're being the Spanish Inquisition.
No, because I don't want,
Absolutely.
um,
And honestly, I like the 5 whys, and like Sue, I use them professionally a lot. I also try to balance them a little bit, just like Sue said, probe a little bit. The way I probe is to introduce how, especially if the conversation is one on one. Because even, organizational wise, let's say the leader of the organization, the head of the department, will get so defensive
Mhm.
when you ask a question like, so why you have high turnover rate? So why do you think like you didn't get the result you were expecting this semester, let's say?
Mhm.
People will immediately start becoming more and more defensive.
Mhm.
But when you introduce how, so I kind of try to stop myself at how. So, for example, how can we achieve better results? What do you think we should do? This, invites contribution. How can we, make employees stay with the organization? What do you think we should change, do differently? Something that will make them think they have a career path in the organization.
Yeah.
So while you are asking the how in this case, you throw a little bit of, breadcrumb here, another there, for them to, catch it and think about it just a little. So
Yeah.
as we can move the conversation forward, and from there you can put your finger on the second why and the third why until
Yeah.
you get to your fifth why and you start developing a plan. The other thing that I would caution about, oftentimes when we have conversations with ourselves, we tend to be very critical. So even with self reflection, judgment will find its way. And we become very critical of who we are or what we have done or things to that effect. And the conversation with oneself will go down the drain. So rather than keep saying, so why did I do that? Oh, I didn't pay attention. Why I didn't pay attention? I didn't have my cup of coffee. So I'm telling myself, in other words, that I'm, so sloppy or not, detail oriented person. I'm criticizing. And sometimes, that criticism can be really, really hard. Rather than that, I can say to myself, so how did I arrive to this conclusion? So now maybe I'm exploring the process versus making it all, self-oriented. I'm exploring the method, which the method can be totally wrong. And I may be behind that method, but still, I'm making it more, strategy oriented versus self oriented.
So one of the things that my definition of coaching is eliciting best thinking in others.
Mm.
And so when I move to the how, sometimes I might say, so what might that look like? So totally, because eliciting best thinking means you're doing your own thinking. I'm not doing it for you. So I'm not rescuing you. And that's a really hard thing to do. But it's pretty critical. So, Cynthia, did you have something you were going to add?
Well, I really needed this because I think I'm again, the judgmental thing and eliciting best thinking. I have my issue, my 25-year-old grandson is really struggling. He leaves jobs. He doesn't even go and tell them he's going to go. And he's done this 3 times. And he has a brilliant computer tech mind. And I think he just gets, I don't know, he gets irritated at them being not smart enough and he just leaves. So he hasn't learned the way to communicate with people. And I'm going to try the 5 whys with him. And I've been not judgment. I have been so loving and accepting, but at the same time, he needs to see what's going on. And I need to help elicit his best thinking is what I need.
Do you have permission to do that with him?
Other than I've only texted him, left voice messages of, I'm here for you. I love you. I'm supporting you. I know you're using your best judgment. I haven't once mentioned that I know his mother told me he just left this job.
Right.
So no, I haven't asked him if I have permission to ask him, but I was thinking of just.
It's tough. I've got a granddaughter whose dad talks about her being depressed, and he says, no, don't talk to her. She doesn't want anyone to know. So I just pray because it's real, important. If he'll talk to a coach, you can have him call me. I'd be glad to just talk to him. But I don't know that he'd be willing to.
Yeah, I know. He went to a Christmas party with his family, my daughter and the other 2 kids. And I said, well, how was it? How did Jack do? Did Jack come with you? Because he lives alone in his own little apartment. And Jill said, well, he sat in the corner and didn't come out and mingle with other people. So that sounds like he's depressed.
He's ashamed of it.
No, yeah. I think he's probably ashamed. I'm hoping he's ashamed. I don't know. I'm hoping he knows what he's doing is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I thought
Cynthia, you reminded me of something. Sometimes people want to avoid the discussion, so that's why they sit in the corner.
Yeah.
I recall, friends, maybe family members, they would even decline the invitation just because they know that once they show up, someone would ask them about, whatever it is, the divorce, the job, or the passing away of someone they love. And to avoid all of it, and again, we go back perhaps a chapter before, when we talked about people trying to avoid pain. So that topic becomes painful. And I felt what you are trying to do with your grandson, which is so honorable, is to create a welcoming environment.
Mm-hmm.
You are just kind of setting the stage and hoping that he would come and open up and talk about it with you. And that is very honorable, very encouraging as well. And he knows it.
Mm-hmm.
So that is very powerful. And that is exactly the let them theory. So you are letting him time, you are letting him choose, when, where, all of it.
I don't know if you have an answer to that.
All you are doing is telling him, I'm here for you. I'm available.
Right.
Whenever you want, we can talk.
Right.
That is so powerful.
Go ahead, Cynthia.
No, Sandy wanted to say something.
Well,
I'm sorry, Sandy, I cut you off.
No, you didn't. One of the things that I thought was interesting is part of the ABC was apologize first before you ask the questions. And I had never, ever thought of that. And Cynthia, I had done the same thing, been in judgment of people because I think they should be doing something better.
Yeah.
And be able to say, I just want to say, I'm sorry that I have sometimes been in, put myself in a position of judging things you're doing. And I just want you to know, that's not what I want a relationship to be about. And then at that point, hopefully you could start having a question, depending on their response, being able to ask the why questions, like what you said. But I had not thought about apologizing and setting up the stage, but I think that puts you on neutral ground with the person you want to visit, with the person that you love. You're saying, I don't want to be this way. And you're not coming in as if I'm perfect and you've got a problem. It's
it might lay the groundwork.
Right.
It might lay the barrier down of, whether or not they felt judged or not.
Right.
So, Cynthia, do you think, are there any consequences that have fallen on him because of this behavior?
No, he's actually getting reinforced.
Okay.
The computer world, he's got jobs because people hire him and he likes to be alone. Mm-hmm. So he's staying in his little apartment. He's doing technical work for other businesses, and I think he's not getting.
He's contracting out.
Yeah, that's the word. Yeah.
So it's providing his living.
I was going to say, didn't you love it that Mel's husband's brother didn't support him?
Mm-hmm.
And I go, wow, because when Mel's brothers told Chris, her husband, no, I won't bail you out, then he had to, like an alcoholic, he had to hit bottom. He had to go to the bottom and realize, I got to get out of this business. It's killing him. And that's when he left the restaurant business. But he wouldn't have done it if his brother had rescued him.
Well, the other thing is, I mean, it sounds like he's a high introvert.
Very.
Okay. And he just might not have discovered, I mean, maybe he needs to consider being an entrepreneur.
Well, and that's part of how I've been supporting him. I've been saying, Jack, you're doing what I know you love. The fact that he wasn't responsible is the part that upsets me. And his mother is, I don't know about his dad, because his mother is my daughter. And so I'm able to talk to her. And she's kind of upset, pretty mad at him. And I don't know that she's saying to him what I'm saying, of that I understand what you're trying to take care of yourself and you're happier this way. But at the same time, you want a person to learn. You don't act like that.
Sure. So he contracts out and then he still doesn't show up.
Oh, no, he does those. Oh, he loves that kind of work.
So I think you may have found his magic's place, though, Cynthia, is maybe that is where he operates out of the best. And we feel
Yeah.
sad that, you know what, you weren't being responsible for what you're doing, but maybe it was so challenging for him, or he was so uncomfortable that he didn't know how to handle the situation well.
Mhm.
He said life sucking work.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, that was his word. And so at the last, I mean, 3 big companies, a trucking company and another industrial company, and then a school district. So you guys, I mean, this is a big deal.
Right.
He did not say to his boss, I'm going to leave. Anyway, I should, but
No,
anyway,
yeah, but what I'm sort of nuancing is he has, and maybe he doesn't have the language for it yet,
Mhm.
realizing that he's an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs don't want to work for a big company.
no, he's loving what he's doing right now. He's happy.
And if he can make money, he'll make more money by being a consultant,
Right,
as
right.
long as he's contracting clearly.
Right.
But they're totally different. Working
Right.
for an organization is not the same as being, and he's actually young to discover that. Most people don't discover that till they're in their 30s and 40s.
And she was talking about the 25-year-old brain that you really, it doesn't fully mature. I think it's the frontal lobe, fully mature until you're about,
Right. The prefrontal cortex does
Yeah.
not
Well,
fully
they,
mature.
they say, especially in men are usually developing later than girls are,
Yeah.
women are, in regard to that.
Yeah. So it's a delicate balance, and it's tough to watch him. But he might not be suffering like
I
you think.
don't think he is. I think he's in his little house, in his little apartment, and
Mhm.
And he's providing for himself.
yeah, he didn't have to go home. Had he had to go home, she probably wouldn't have allowed it. But I don't know. I mean, think about what a parent's, can you say no and then your child is sleeping on the street? No, you can't do that.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tough call to know where you enable and where you're supporting, and it's tough. I'm watching my daughter going through this with her, helping her kids launch, and she's helping them help themselves. But it's a challenge. It's because there's tension as to how much to do and how much not to do, and yeah, it's an interesting time of life when you're working with grown-up kids that are still getting to the point of launching.
Right,
You don't
right.
always know what to do.
And broken expectations, which it sounds like your daughter's going through,
Right, right.
causes conflict. Absolutely.
And both of them, her husband is the lead principal for the biggest high school in this town.
Right.
And then she's a well-known, respected educator in her elementary school.
Right.
And to have this happen in
Yeah.
their family, I mean, they're embarrassed. I'm sure they're like,
Yeah. They're feeling like it's a reflection of how they raised their son, and they know that that's not how they raised their son to be. So that's hard. It's tough.
But it is this, them feeling that way is a consequence too for what he's doing.
right?
And until that lands on him, it might not change, and it might not ever change.
Well, I hope so, Sue. I hope, because I want to see a mature person.
Right.
Of course. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. So Sandy, can you go through the rest of those ABCs real quickly, and so we can have that in this podcast?
Yeah, it talked about apologizing first out the gate and then asking the open-ended questions. And I would also agree with you, Mishkat, that it doesn't have to be a why, it can be a how. You just need to ask it so that it's not a pat answer, that gives them a chance to reflect and think back. The next one, the B, was to back off, because you're not going to do any good by pressuring people. They're going to come about it on their own, or they won't come to that. And then the last one is to celebrate. When you see them making small movement toward good goals, you're going to encourage them, and you're going to let them know you noticed. Because a lot of times that's what helps people find their energy, is to know that someone sees them and that it's making a difference to somebody else's life.
I think that one depends on the person, because depending on the person, if you celebrate, the turtle might put their head back in the shell.
Yeah, you got to be. That's where I
have to know the person and maybe
Right.
celebrate in a more subtle way.
Right.
Because if you celebrate something, and this is true in organizations too, if you do something that that person individually doesn't think is celebration, you really have.
Right. You've
Yeah.
punished them in a way. They're embarrassed. I mean, yeah. But she said it could be cheesy. I don't want somebody to think, oh, they're just trying to be nice to me now.
No.
You know, you got to
Mhm.
really.
Has to be
No,
very.
you have to really mean what you say, because people will see through it. If you're just throwing fluff, people, it's got to be something that you honestly can say.
Mhm.
This is what I noticed.
Yeah.
It was interesting because when I was teaching in preschool, I had a little boy named Jimmy, and he had we had some concerns about his behavior. And so I would try to encourage him when he did something right. And actually that set him off
Mhm.
more than if I just did not make a big deal about it.
Yeah.
And I was trying to encourage him. But like Sue said, that isn't the best for everybody.
Mhm.
Again, you have to know your person that you're working with or your audience.
And noticing isn't subtly noticing isn't necessarily, I wouldn't call it celebration. You know what I mean? It's just
Right. No, it's just it's encouragement. It's just noticing. Like you said, everybody wants to be noticed. They want to know that somebody sees them. We can do
Hard.
hard things. Oh, yes, we can.
There's this new book by Glendon Doyle, Amy Wambach, and Amanda Doyle, and it's brand new. It's huge. I had no idea when I was getting it how big it was. But you guys, this is part of what Mel is talking about. We can do hard. And if you try to rescue your mate or your partner or your children, you're giving them the message that you don't believe in them.
they're broken. Yeah.
That you don't think they're capable. I wanted to leave this as an idea for
Okay,
us
good.
as they get into this book and they want to keep going on and supporting each other with We Can Do Hard.
Yeah. Is that the podcast? Because I've listened to that podcast. We Can Do Hard Things.
Yes. I think she's in New York. I'm not positive.
I'm not sure. But it is a podcast. I've listened to it. At least one of them, not all of them. So,
yeah.
So anything else you want to bring up with these two chapters?
The idea of celebration. You've both Sue and Sandy mentioned it rightfully. I have seen different versions of it. So sometimes, especially in organizations, I would see the leader going around the organization and then randomly saying thank you to maybe the first person they see or to someone, sitting behind their desk working or something. Honestly, I would chat with the employee afterwards and it would have very limited impact on them. The other thing that I've noticed also so many leaders do in so many different cultures, they would either buy gifts to their employees, they would maybe give everyone a piece of pastry, so to speak. They go around and do that. They pick someone at random to give them a coin or give them like some sort of a token. All of that would fall on deaf ears for I wouldn't say unknown reason, but if you are thanking someone, tell them what for.
Yes.
So thank you
Specific.
for,
Yeah.
and then how that impacts the mission.
Yeah.
So let's say thank you for staying, late last time. It helped us get the report, and we shared it with the board successfully. They gave us good feedback. That's a sincere thing. That's someone an employee would recognize.
Yeah. And
But if you
recognize
just
it right
say
away.
something at random or go around giving people food, and oftentimes the sad part is that usually it happens after some sort of a confrontation. So either the leader had some sort of a disagreement with somebody or with the organization at large. And then to their mind, they think if, they go around, give somebody or everybody food,
Get rewarded.
then it's all forgotten and gone.
Mhm.
Water under the bridge. In reality, people would remember it.
Sure.
And until you, as you said, Sandy, apologize. If you did something wrong, apologize. It won't make you smaller, it will make you bigger.
Mhm.
But if you just, try to brush it differently, so to speak, you won't achieve anything.
No.
Yeah. It's true. Well, I'm going to wrap this up by saying what is a takeaway from these two chapters. I know there's many, but let's pick one and go around. Who wants to start?
People have to
I
be
can start. Let's go with you, Cynthia.
Cynthia, go ahead. I didn't hear you.
people have to be ready. You can't force other people to change.
Yes.
You can inspire.
Yes. There
That's
you go.
That's
Okay.
good.
Kat, how about you?
For me, while you are asking for why this happened, make room to learn about how this happened.
Okay. Great. Sandy, how about you?
I liked the loop process because I think it gives you permission to let it go and let them do what they need to do. It's kind of an internalizer. It's kind of something that you process within yourself that makes you be able to give, back away and not feel guilty about it and not get upset about it. And then watching to see how you can influence. I mean, we know that the best form of education is modeling the behavior you want, right? All of us have that, know that by doing the right thing ourselves, it instills that in other people around them watching. And I think that's what it basically was saying, is that's your influence. And so that having that all come together in a roundabout way, I like it. It made me have take pause on how I wanted to do things going forward.
Yeah. I'm taking away the reminder that celebrations or feedback need to be personal and they need to be immediate and specific.
Mhm.
Not just a generic thank you, but thank you for, yeah.
Cynthia, I love your heart for your grandson, honey, and I love the fact that you are trying to process and know
Yeah.
how to best support him.
Yeah.
And you might do it wrong sometimes, kid. Don't take it personally. Just be able to say, okay, so what will work next time, and figure out ways that you can still let him do what he needs to do, but also just be there as a caring grandma. I think that's awesome.
Yeah. Good.
I'm going to pray for the perfect opening.
Yeah, right?
Thank you.
Okay, so next time we're going to have one last episode of the Let Them Theory, and we haven't come up with a date yet. We'll do that offline, but we're going to start with 17 and go through the rest of the book.
16. It's
Oh,
16.
16? Didn't we just?
Yeah, I got mixed up. It's not 50. We just
You're right. It's 16. Okay,
16 and 17.
16, 17, and then the rest of the book.
Mm-hmm.
Then we'll conclude with just kind of highlights to how awesome this book is and what a recommendation it is for people to listen to and process through. Hopefully in a group. It's very helpful.
I thought so too.
I enjoy it. I love meeting with you girls. It's very cool.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
Me too, honestly.
And if there's anybody who wants to join us, we're welcome. For the next book, we'll be happy to have a bigger crowd.
Well, and it's one thing to read something on your own and just sit and think about it, but it's another thing to be pushed back or brought like Mishka, you bring another whole perspective to my thinking, and I really appreciate
Yeah, I love that.
what we are teaching each other.
Yeah.
Sharing.
Absolutely, me too. And I learn a lot from you, Cynthia. And oftentimes, when I go back and reflect, I say, Cynthia did say that, and that happened to be the truth.
Absolutely.
Yes, we all get to be our coaches, huh? Okay, so I'm going to push stop recording and hang in there.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
And you ladies stick around for a minute, okay?